Hi, I'm Crystal with Azalea's Garden, and for today's video, I want to share with you 10 seed starting mistakes that you can avoid this season to have a better seed experience. Before I get started, I do want to mention that I have a full seed starting tutorial from start to finish so that you could have a great seed starting season. So don't forget to check that out right after this. Tip number one, right off the bat, is inappropriate soil. I know we really like to get started as soon as possible, and we think that basically anything might work. And while I have found that you can use different types of soil, the best idea is to start with seed starting mix. Seed starting mix has a lot more peat moss, so that's just going to guarantee you a loftier, softer soil, which means it's going to be a lot easier for your seeds to set their roots and break out of the soil. Tip number two is planting your seeds too deep. You don't want to plant your seeds too deep. That's why it's always important to check the back of the seed packet. Usually it tells you the seed depth, and if you're not sure of the seed depth, just do a quick Google search. Usually it's very universal for the exact seed type. So all sunflowers tend to have the exact same seed depth. All zinnias have the same seed depth. All beans have the same or similar seed depth. So just check your label or do a quick Google search. The reason why this is so important is because if you plant a seed too deep that actually needs light to germinate, it will not show up, and this is going to cause just a lot of sadness, to be honest, because you're going to think that something is wrong and you're just not going to know what or why, when it could be something so avoidable like planting your seed at the adequate depth. Number three is watering inconsistencies. You want to keep your seed trays nice and moist before they've germinated, because if the soil dries out, more than likely it has killed the seed and it's just not going to pop up. I am doing a separate video on watering, so don't forget to subscribe so you can check that one out. Number four is inadequate lighting. So I have talked about this in several of my videos. You want to make sure that you're giving your seedlings enough light, whether that be indoors in grow lights or on TV trays by the window or directly outside. You want to make sure that they're getting 8+ hours of sunlight. Most seeds need a lot of light to germinate, especially your flowers and vegetables. One thing I want to mention is to make sure you're rotating your seed trays. This just ensures that your seedlings come up nice and straight instead of leaning more favorable to one side, because they tend to want to reach the light. So by making sure that you're regularly rotating your trays, you're just going to achieve that nice and straight lick that you want your plants to have. The next tip is to harden off your plants if you are seeding them indoors. What this means is that you will take your trays outside for a few hours at a time, introducing them to more of that bright, direct sunlight, because what you don't want to do is take them from their nice, cozy indoor homes directly outside without ever having introduced them to the elements. This is more than likely going to guarantee that you're going to kill your hard work. So make sure you're taking them out a few hours at a time every single day until you've reached the maximum amount of time, and then you can go and plant them outside to guarantee that they're going to be successful. The next tip is to label your seeds. I do this so many times, so do as I say, not as I do. I always think I'm going to remember what I've planted in what section, and I end up completely forgetting what I planted and not knowing what it is and hoping for the best. It never turns out the way I want it to, so just label your seeds, whether that be with popsicle sticks or actual garden labels. It's super easy to do, and it's going to save you so much time and headache. Next one is to make sure you are growing things for your zone and or your current temperatures. The last thing you want to do is to grow broccoli in a zone 8 in April. You're going to be really sad, really disappointed, because it's just not going to work out the way you want it to, and you're going to want to give up on gardening, to be honest, especially if you're a beginner gardener. So just make sure you are planting the correct things for your zone. We are headed for spring. If you're in a zone 8 or higher, you want to do things like zinnias and cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers. For those specific growing zones, you want to wait for things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage in the fall and winter, as opposed to right now. If you don't know your growing zone, just Google your zip code and type in growing zone. It'll give you the information, and just do a quick search on the things that you can plant right now. Promise you, you won't be disappointed if you're planting the right things. The next tip is to remind you to bump up in size. So what I mean by this is, for example, you have your seed tray and it's middle of March, you still have 3 or 4 weeks worth of potential winter. You don't want to plant your tomato seeds and find out that they have died after another frost. So it's not quite ready to go outside, but it has completely overgrown. This will cause the stem to be leggy, for it to need a lot of extra water, and it's just not gonna be a good plant off the get-go. So what you want to do is bump it up into a slightly bigger container so that it has more room for its roots to grow. The next tip is to make sure you are using seeds that are not too old or that are not viable. Let me explain. Some seeds are only good for a certain amount of time. For example, foxglove is only good for the next 2, maybe 3 years, and after that the germination rate really drops. So you want to make sure you're using it within an adequate amount of time, otherwise you're just wasting energy and resource and seed. As far as the viable seed, I think this is especially important to mention when you harvest your own seed. If you're harvesting your own, for example, zinnia seeds, and you've harvested it too early, it's not going to be viable, meaning it's not going to work. It's just going to be a waste of time and space. So make sure that you're harvesting them at the right time to guarantee that they will be viable. The last tip I want to give you might be a little controversial, because while we all love to garden and plant more and more and more, doing too much seeds at one time can be a bad thing. In my experience, I have done too many seeds at one time. I've had too many trays going. I think at one point I had like 672 count seed trays, and I didn't have enough time to plant them all. And I ended up sacrificing a lot of really good seedlings because I wasn't caring for them properly and planting them within a timely manner. So just make sure you are doing and managing your time and efforts well, because you don't want to just end up wasting all this time and energy on something that you're not going to be able to finish. All right, you guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope this has gotten you a little excited and ready for that seed starting journey, especially if you're a beginner. Let me know what kind of seeds you're going to be planting this year. I am so excited for you. All right, till next time.